Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and today we're going to take a look at the ranks of the running backs. And to help me go through them, Scott Bogman, our main dude over at college football on the betting pros side, and of course you know him from Fantasy Pros, and our boy the Welsh, who's all over the live streams on FP. He holds down MLB, anything with three letters, basically, Welsh is a master of. So we're going to talk about the running back ranks of the ECR today, which you can find over at fantasypros.com/rankings every single week. We're going to debate some of the guys in some of the tiers, tell you who we like, who we don't, who you should be watching. So make sure you get ready for all of the goodness. Sit down, relax, because we have got you covered here for all of the running backs. And we're going to start here, boys, with the consensus top 20 as we go through. It's actually 19 today, from the A-plus tier to the B tier. It's the usual suspects at the top. Christian McCaffrey, obviously, coming off another great game. Tougher defense this week for him against Cleveland. Then Bijan Robinson, Tony Pollard are all waiting for a touchdown for him. Perhaps the Austin Eckler return against Dallas this week. Then Travis Etienne, David Montgomery, who's been doing everything right. Then you've got Ken Walker, Josh Jacobs at 8, at 9. Kyron Williams still going strong. Then you have Raheem Mostert, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, Breece Hall coming off a career week last Sunday. Isaiah Pacheco's got a great matchup against Denver. DeAndre Swift against the Jets at 16. Then to close things out at 17, we've got James Cook, Alexander Madison, and Brian Robinson Jr. So, Scott Bogman, as you look at the top 20 RBs, all these guys are starting, but who stands out to you? Who is somebody that you feel good about or bad about? Isaiah Pacheco.
Isaiah Pacheco has to be the guy, Joe. I mean,
you couldn't even wait to say it. You were so excited about it.
Denver has given up so many rushing yards. It's unbelievable. It's just you walk in and it's like an automatic 100 yards and a score for your running back. So I am very, very excited about Isaiah Pacheco. And we've seen Patrick Mahomes make some mistakes recently and put the Chiefs kind of in jeopardy in a couple games. I think if you're smart, you're on short rest here, you run the ball a ton. It doesn't really matter. I mean, Denver has kind of given up already on Sean Payton, it seems. At least this batch of players had. So Patrick Mahomes can go out there and throw 100 touchdowns as well. I would not be shocked to see him have an enormous game as well. But I think it's, all right, we're short rest. Pat hasn't been playing his best football yet. Let's run the ball a bunch. We've seen Isaiah Pacheco's snap percentage increase every single week, and I think this week is going to be no different. I think he runs the ball at least 20 times, and I think he goes buck wild against the Broncos. I am super excited for him this week.
Let's not blame too much on Patty Mahomes. I mean, the drop rate of Rashee Rice and Kadarius Toney is absurd. It's absurdly high.
But he's put the ball up for
he
grabs,
has, but he's also put the ball in people's hands, and it's fallen out of it way too many times.
Still Patrick Mahomes. I'm not making fun of him,
but he might be Patrick Mahomes without Travis Kelce, which is also an interesting piece too, as we're looking ahead here. He's working, he's trying to get all the therapy done on the ankle. We'll see what happens there with that. But Pacheco on Monday on the Betting Pro show, I was talking about what that line's going to be, and we talked about that being the best bet. I said it was going to open at 70.5. Guess what? It opened at 70.5. So there you have it, everybody. And Sam Hoppen was like, I don't know, that seems kind of high. I was like, I don't know if it's high enough, to tell you the truth. I want to go for it. All right, so Welsh, when you're looking at some of these guys here in the A+, A, and B tiers, obviously everybody here is going to be starting. Everybody here is in lineups, especially with the bye weeks here. But who stands out to you on the good or bad side of things here in this group that people should be a little bit more aware of?
Well, one guy I think that should be higher, and I'm going to end up having quite a bit higher in my ranks, is James Cook. And James Cook, coming off of a bad start where he didn't get the carries and not much was happening, yet he's still averaging 4.8 yards per carry, and he's going up against one of the worst defenses to stop the run. The Giants are giving up the second most rushing yards in the NFL and giving up top 6 in fantasy points to running backs in the NFL. And, you know, I know Cooks has been a little bit here or there as far as what the total usage is, but they're throwing the ball to him. He, against the Raiders, which if you want to look at like similar defenses he's gone up against as far as rush goes, he got 17 carries for 23 yards against the Raiders, over 7 yards per carry. He has had multiple 3+ catch games. 3 of his 5 games he's been able to catch 3 or more balls, and I expect this team to be up, and I expect them to run with Cook. I'm guaranteeing a touchdown.
Ooh,
I'm guaranteeing a James Cook touchdown this week. So 17 in my mind is too low. I think this is a surprise RB1 for the week.
So Pacheco right now is at 15 in the ECR, the expert consensus rankings. He's a B+ player. James Cook at 17, he is a B. I agree with both of you guys. I think these two guys could finish as RB1s this week in that top 12. So let's go all wings up here for Pacheco and James Cook as we head on to look at the next grouping of tiers of running backs. Before we do, just a reminder, the NFL season is going strong and DraftKings Sportsbooks is hooking up new customers with an offer that's even stronger. Bet $5 on any game this week and get $200 instantly in bonus bets at DraftKings. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. No. All customers can take advantage of a sweeter offer right now every game day this October. So whether you're betting, I don't know, on the over on those Pacheco rushing yards like I was just talking about, or if you want to go for that anytime touchdown scorer on James Cook, you can get it all right now over at DraftKings. So get in on the game day greatness. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use that promo code FantasyPros when you do. That's all one word, FantasyPros. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet $5 on the NFL. That's code FantasyPros only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. All right, let's see what running backs will be ours. Let's go to the B- team. The teams, the RBs here that, maybe, tried really hard, but fell a little bit short of the grade this week. B- is a little patronizing, but there's some interesting names here, guys, with expectations. Rhamondre Stevenson, the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots averaging 11 points a game on offense. Let me say that again. 11 points a game. It's disturbing. Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, this week we're hoping, this is the second week back, a little bit more run here for Jonathan Taylor. Maybe he and Zach Moss flip the script. We'll talk about them in a second. Rashad White from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Dameon Pierce brings up the rear here in the B- tier. I want to start with Rhamondre Stevenson because I'm looking at your ranks, gentlemen. The ECR's got him at RB20. Boggs, you've got him at 19. Welsh, you've got him at 23, a little bit lower. So, Welsh, I want to start with you here because I'm more where you're at right now. This New England Patriots offense has been brutal. The idea should be get Rhamondre Stevenson the football a little bit more and try not to fall so far behind so quickly. But what do you think here? Do you think it's a lost cause already when it comes to Stevenson?
I'm open to the possibility that long-term it's not going to be, but right now, I don't think I have him low enough. I don't think you can get him low. I don't think he's startable. I think you have to give it into a prove-it time, averaging 2.8 yards per carry and 13.5 carries per game. He has one of the worst yards after contact, 1.79 yards after contact. And it's funny, Bogman and I, we have some sheets we're sharing. We both kind of came to the same conclusion. He has a 0% breakaway percentage through 5 games because he doesn't have a run over 15 yards. He has been awful. By game, it has gotten worse. Ezekiel Elliott getting more run every single week. This offense can't move the ball. The only problem, the only little pseudo problem here is this does seem like a team that you could get right on. They could start throwing the ball. I think if you're looking at your offense and you're saying where and how have we been so inefficient through 5 weeks, what do we need to change? You would look at this team and go, well, our best playmaker is Rhamondre Stevenson. And I know that's it's a very weird narrative type of thing, but it plays. Like the same thing was said, I said at least about Joe Burrow and Jahmyr Chase. Jahmyr Chase is out there screaming, I'm always open, get me the ball. It was a good defense to play against. It was a get right situation. If there is a get right situation, in my mind, with the Patriots, this is going to be one of those spots, and you would give Rhamondre his run. The problem is he just doesn't get the bulk of all of it. So I don't think he's trustable, in my fake words. I do not think he's trustable. 23, 24. I think we're actually still putting him in a spot where we're like, oh yeah, you could start him out there. I really don't think you can. I would rather start guys in the next tier we're going to talk about than Rhamondre. I'd feel better about because I don't trust the workload. I don't trust what he's done on the field, and I can't start him until he does it for 1 week. I'm not going to keep paying for these bad performances.
Boggs, the Raiders are giving up 647 yards rushing this year. It's toward the bottom third of the league, basically. But, Stevenson needs to work more in the passing game, too, I think, for him to be fantasy relevant. I mean, they've got so many issues right now, Boggs. I mean, you're a little higher than ECR, but you're right there. So do you think that Stevenson against the Raiders is a matchup that you actually want to play this week?
No, I don't want to play Stevenson if I don't have to. Like Welsh said, dead last in yards after contact with running backs that have had at least 30 carries here. 0 design runs over 15 yards. One of 8 players with that. That is disgusting. AJ Dillon is also one of those players, and we did just see him put up 20 for 75 in a score against the Raiders, which is nice. That's why I have him a spot above consensus because the Raiders are a get-right spot. And if there ever was a week where you wanted to run the ball 50 times and not let your quarterback throw it, it would be this week with Mac Jones playing so terribly and being kind of blasé and nonchalant. I mean, Bailey Zappi was replaced him at the end of 2 games, so maybe you go to Zappi quicker here. I don't know, but I think my focus, if I'm the Patriots, is run the football as many times as I possibly can, keep my defense gassed up, and try to win a game that way without having to pass much with Mac Jones at all because he's been awful. So I only like Stevenson above ECR because of this matchup against the Raiders. He has not shown anything to make me think he is trustable as the Welsh set.
Yeah, again, trustable, not a word. It's a Welshism. It's a very different
Welshism. Yes, it is. It's in the Urban Dictionary. That's the one I
need the Book of Welshism. So. That's what I'm hoping for, the Book of Welshism.
Let's talk about Jonathan Taylor a second, too, because, again, you've waited weeks now to get Jonathan Taylor in your lineup. I know last week was disappointing, but it was a tough matchup, too. You had to know that things were working against you when it came to the scenario with the Tennessee Titans last week. Now, that being said, let's put that in the rearview mirror, getting the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. Boggs, when you're taking a look here at Jonathan Taylor, you've got him at 26, ECR's at 25. The Welsh has him at 20, so he likes him a little bit more. But do you feel better about the upside of Jonathan Taylor this week in this second week in return?
I mean, I feel a little better. I was severely disappointed last week because I kind of thought this trip to the pup and all that stuff for Jonathan Taylor was all posturing and nonsense. And, you know, he really didn't need to be on the pup and start the year on the IR and all that crap. Like, and then they paid him. I was like, oh, they're definitely giving him the rock today. And they didn't at all. They babied him. So they're obviously going to be babying him again. I do think it's going to be closer to a 50-50 split with Zach Moss this week. And then I think next week we get to Jonathan Taylor carrying the majority of the workload. But I was wrong last week, so he'll probably have 35 carries this week. So I'm not really sure what to expect, but I expect way more this week from him for sure.
All right. Welsh, your expectations for Jonathan Taylor this week, because everybody has been waiting for this, and I know they're disappointed last week, but I always say to people, look, you got to start your studs. Taylor's your stud. You put him out there regardless. But as you're building your lineup and putting your roster together this week, you might need a little bit more boom in your flex. Like, that's one of those things you might have to think about when it comes to Jonathan Taylor, if indeed those training wheels are on for another week or even 2 potentially.
Yeah, there's a couple things with this one. I hated the snap percentage in the first week. I don't have massive faith that it's going to have a dramatic flip. Like, especially it's going to flip over. I do not think it's going to flip over. Zach Moss is going to get run. I'm a little bit worried this goes from like, what was it, 15% snap percentage to like 35%. And Zach Moss is still getting the run. The problem is the Jags, they don't really give up a ton of fantasy points to running backs. You can throw the ball on them a little bit out of the backfield, which actually might be in favor of Jonathan Taylor. But I kind of view the backs this week is it's like a baseballism here, like with the glob. There's this glob of running backs from like 18 to 32 that have different varying degrees of Jonathan Taylor, huge name, you know, that's a guy who can perform at top 5 if he's getting run, versus like these backs in the Jaleel McLaughlin's and the Demercado who we're going to talk about, that it's like they're kind of fun if they get the run. I think all these guys sit in this general range, and I have varying degrees of distrust in all of them. So I may have him a little bit high. I think I'm being hopeful that they are going to unleash him a little bit. I kind of feel a touchdown in play for him. I think they're going to pass the ball. I think they're going to use him in the passing game a little bit more. But I guess if I'm the high guy, I don't feel super confident about Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor versus Rhamondre Stevenson, I think, is actually a closer debate. And I'm sitting here crapping on Stevenson and being like, okay, I got Taylor higher. I think those two are kind of close.
I would play Taylor over Stevenson this week.
I would too.
I'm just going to play the better player in the offense. And look, I'm confident in Gardner Minshew. I mean, that's another big piece of this now, is that you don't have Anthony Richardson. So not having Anthony Richardson running around as much as he does, I think that also helps the running back.
You don't believe in Minshew Mania, Joe?
No, I'm confident in Minshew, but I'm confident that he is also not running the ball 8 times, 10 times a game. That's
I'm confident he's going to hand the ball off.
I am too. I like that. And he's comfortable in the Shane Steichen offense. He's been in this offense for a couple years now. Going to the C+ tier, those are the people who had just a little bit more than average. That's the C+ tier. Zach Moss, we aforementioned that Indy backfield. Then Jerome Ford of the Cleveland Browns. Jaleel McLaughlin also mentioned too. He'll be a very interesting one this week, depending on the Javonte Williams health. Maybe McLaughlin McLaughlin's actually carved out a little bit of a role for himself regardless, because he looked better than Pirine has all year. And then Saquon Barkley, the walking enigma. We'll see what comes of him this week, if he will play finally. But Jerome Ford is the guy I want to talk about here. Welsh, we'll start with you, because Jerome Ford has a really tough matchup against your San Francisco 49ers, who look spectacular. Against Baltimore 2 weeks ago before the bye, 9 for 26. Not good. Then against Tennessee, another really good run defense, 10 for 18 yards. Also not good. He saved his day with 2 touchdowns. That's really what happened. So Jerome Ford, to me, is one of the most dangerous players on here, and not in a good way. Do you agree or disagree depending on your ranking of him? Because right now, the ECR ranking is, I think, a little bit higher than it should be. And now you've got him actually lower at 29, where he's actually 25 in the ECR. Yeah,
and I'm guessing you agree with closer to where I am, right?
I'm terrified of this matchup because, especially if Watson doesn't play.
I mean, it's going to be a bloodbath. I actually bet that Niner line very early in the week. I don't know where
it came out Sunday night.
What is it at now? Because I got it at 5 too.
It ain't 5 anymore. I'll tell you.
There's no chance it's going to end under a touchdown.
I'll head over to my Betting Pros app and I'll look right now. Welsh.
There you go. And while you're at it, maybe you could hit follow. You can follow the Welsh on Betting Pros and see all of my 65+% ROI so far in the year.
Who's counting?
But who's counting? Yeah, right. No. Here's my problem with Jerome Ford. There's a 49er problem, but also him. He's a breakaway guy. Like, he will be 2 yards, 2 yards, 2 yards. He has to break something away to be relevant. He actually has more missed tackles on the season than James Cook and Josh Jacobs. He has a 46% breakaway percentage. That's absurd. But he has less than 50 yards rushing over the last 2 games combined. Go to the 49ers. They have not given up more than 55 rushing yards to teams' running backs the whole season. They can be got a little bit in the passing side because they've actually given up more receiving yards to running backs in 2 of the 5 weeks so far this season. And Ford has 9 targets over the last 2 games. So all I'm saying is Ford has to have a big breakaway play. The 49ers held down Tony Pollard. Why am I going to go and have this big trust in Jerome Ford? If you are banking on a breakaway play on a Browns team that might have PJ Walker as the quarterback, I don't know what to do for you. I have no interest in Jerome Ford this week. 29 isn't low enough. He could break one away, and I'll eat my words, but he is inefficient outside of those huge breakaway plays. That is everything. He's got to break a tackle. 49ers, one of the best tackling teams. Drake Greenlaw and Fred Warner, good luck. Hufanga, good luck. He's got to break a tackle, and he has to break one out in open space. You tell me where they find open space. If you have a better option, I would go with it. I don't like Jerome Ford this week.
I don't either. By the way, that number's moved to -6.5 right now. It's also 91% over the San Francisco side. And I don't think it's wrong. And usually I like to fade the public. I think the public's right on this one, and this could get real ugly, as you said, if we get news that Watson isn't playing for some reason. And so far, it's been a little mystery as of this morning. So we'll continue on. Bogman, your thoughts on Ford? You're a little bit higher than him. Have Welsh and I scared you straight?
Yeah, why do you like him so much? Are your favorite
what
player?
do you like about him so much, Bogman?
Yeah,
I like
you want to marry
Browns.
him?
Can I talk? I like the Browns are coming off a bye week here. And, I think teams coming off a bye week, they have 2 weeks to prep for the Niners. Is it going to do them good? No. I think I would still bet the Niners minus the 6.5 or probably 7.5, where it'll end, because I'll take them at that point, and then they'll win by a touchdown. Exactly what's going to happen. But look, for Jerome Ford, it is the breakaway potential for him. Is it going to happen? I don't know, but I know that this guy is going to get many, many shots at it. He's going to have a lot of hacks at the tree with the axe, because if it's PJ Walker in there, then they're going to be running the ball 50 times of their 60 plays or whatever. You do not want PJ Walker or DTR, whoever it is, in there throwing the football.
The Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Boggs, come on.
I like DTR. He ain't ready, and he definitely ain't ready for. If Dak Prescott is not ready for the Niners, how is DTR going to be ready?
He's not.
How is Deshaun Watson going to be ready for him? Look at Welsh's eyes. He loves all this positive.
I love it. I didn't know you were such a Jerome Ford guy too. I didn't realize you love the Browns so much.
It's not that I'm a Jerome Ford guy. It's that every other matchup for running backs this week sucks. I do not like it.
Yeah.
A lot of them are questionable or coming off of weird performances, or like even Miles Sanders is like, he does not look right. So I think Jerome Ford's going to have 20 carries. I think he breaks one. Maybe he gets in the end zone. That's why I like him. I hate the matchups this week. They're not good.
Yeah, and look, it is a weird week because you have the buys. You have Connor and Achane who've gone to the IR. You've got Khalil Herbert out. You've got a lot of guys missing too. So you're down to a lot of question marks. And speaking of question marks, let's get to the C tier. Miles Sanders, as you mentioned, is leading this C tier. Then you have Emari Demercado from the Arizona Cardinals, who is going to be getting an opportunity, we think. Now, Keontae Ingram could work into that mix too. More on that in a second. Gus Edwards, Tyler Algier, who really at this point is not very exciting. Samaje Perine, another one to me, not exciting. I think that Jaleel McLaughlin showed you enough that he should be getting the secondary work, if not the first work, depending on how Javonte Williams is. Roshan Johnson, we're still waiting about that concussion protocol. As of recording this, he is still in that protocol, so we have to wait and see with him. If not, it'll go to Foreman. We'll talk about him in just a moment. And then Justice Hill closes out that C tier. So let's start with Demercado. Boggs, I'm going to start with you on this one because Demercado is a player that, again, I always like to talk to the college guy because he can give us some insights on the player. I know Debro watched some film on him on Sunday night, and he was pretty impressed with what he was able to offer on the college level. And do you think that the Arizona Cardinals are going to do a little bit of evaluation here? Because this is a franchise that should be evaluating the young players on its roster, because if they have something with Demercado here, it saves them draft capital next year. So do you think he gets the run of this backfield?
I mean, maybe. I'm not super excited about him. I watched him in college, but Kendre Miller was obviously the big pull at TCU. Right. That offensive line was very, very good. Max Duggan and Quentin Johnston were amazing. So Demercado was kind of just a guy here. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel like that's how he is for Arizona as well. I think Keontae Ingram is a better between the tackles runner than Emari Demercado is. But I think you're right, Joe. I think they are evaluating, and that's where they are. So I do think Demercado gets at least 50% of these carries. I know that Corey Clement could get involved here as well. He has familiarity with this offense, so they picked him back up. Ingram should hopefully be back. We'll see. But I have him at 30. I think he's fine, but he is a Jag. He is just a guy, and I'm not very excited about him at all.
All right. Perhaps you are, Welsh, a little bit more excited about what Demercado could do in this game today.
I don't know if I'm not going to be the one that's like, he's going to get 25 plus touches and I'm not going to go nuts. I'm worried. They also picked up Tony Jones. I mean, as stupid as it is, I think Tony Jones is a guy that comes in and gets 5 to 8 carries, takes away red zone from him. I think what you saw out of Demercado this past week is about the usage we're going to get here. I'm not saying he isn't the most explosive player here.
Was 10 rushes for 45. He had 3 targets, caught 1, and he did have the touchdown. So it was...
Sounds about right.
I think it's 12 to 15 touches max, and they're going to use these other guys. Dobbs will run more. He didn't run against the Bengals. I think Tony Jones steals a touchdown away if they were ever to possibly be there. I think he lives between 35 and 25 at RB this week. I think he belongs with Jerome Ford. I think he belongs in that same general area. Ford might get a little bit more volume, actually.
All right, where would Roshan Johnson belong to? Because as we start to get to the C- tier, we have Deontay Foreman at the top of that. So I know Roshan's the guy we've been waiting for. I'm going to save Mr. Texas there for a moment to talk about Roshan. But Deontay Foreman could be lined up for, as Bogman so eloquently put it before, the guy who's just hacking at the tree with the axe. That was kind of Foreman's MO previously in his last stop. So if Foreman does have that clear path forward here, as we get to this next tier, Welsh, is he somebody that you're intrigued in starting if there's no Roshan and no Khalil Herbert?
Yes. So right now I have Roshan a little bit higher. I like what Roshan can do out of the backfield as far as catching the ball. And I think that's something that they're going to have to do a little bit more. You know, surprisingly with the Vikings are averaging 86 yards rushing from running backs per game, but 4 of the 5 games, only 62 because they gave up 220 against the Eagles. So one game really took out what they look like as a run defense. So I actually think this is going to be done with the running backs in the passing game a bit, and Roshan is a solid piece in that, except if Deontay Foreman, if they're both active, I think they eat into each other, and I will bring Roshan down a tiny bit, but I'll have him right around RB2 range. If Roshan is out and it's only Deontay Foreman, this might sound crazy, I'm going to move him up probably to an RB2 because he's better in pass protection. They're going to be able to throw the ball to him. I'm not really worried about the runs in general, but he'll get all the work. That's the point. He'll get all the work. He'll be trusted out there on third downs for that pass protection. if they're both active, I think Roschon is the early down back. I think Deontay is going to be the third down back who might catch the ball a little bit. Maybe Roschon gets that touchdown if they get in short, but they eat into each other both there. If it's only Foreman, he's an RB2. I'd rather start him over Jerome Ford, Demercado, all these guys we've talked about. I think he'll sit probably right between 23 and 25 for me.
Now, Boggs, you are nodding your head in agreement there with Welsh, obviously, so you see that scenario the same way. What is the scenario, in your opinion, though, if, say, they're both active? Let's say they're both active, then what do you do with them if you've got one of them or both of them on your roster? How do you proceed?
If they're both active, then you sit Foreman and you start Roschon.
Okay.
That's what I would do, because Foreman has been inactive this year. They clearly don't like him nearly as much as they like Roschon. And Roschon is a guy that should be a better pro than he was a player in college, because he had Bijan in front of him.
Right.
Guy only had 93 rush attempts last year. He was 11th in PFF run grade, 30th in yards per route run, which is one of my favorite stats for receiving, and third in the PFF elusive rating. Bijan was 7th. So Roschon is a very good runner. He's a closer. He's a power runner. He'll run guys over, but he can run around them as well. So I would love to see him get the full run here. Even if he is active, though, I don't expect him to get the full run because he's coming off the concussion, but he will get way more hacks at it than Deontay Foreman. But if he is down, I'm going to put Foreman up over Jerome Ford and stuff like that, because he's going to have 20 carries at least against a much worse defense, although it is better, like the Welsh mentioned. The Minnesota run D looks bad because that came against Philly mainly, but their secondary's really bad too. You don't really you could pick your poison against the Vikings.
Minnesota's got a lot of issues right now, not having Jefferson too. It's going to really hurt them. So it's going to be fascinating to see what they look like, and also keep an eye on this. This is why you have my playbook. This is why you stay on top of everything going on, so you have the latest news for all of your teams. This running back situation is going to be moving like liquid here in the next few days. So make sure you download my playbook. Go to fantasypros.com/myplaybook. Download all of the My Playbook tool apps there that you possibly can, and make sure you're using all of the tools you can in order to stay on top of all of the news for your team. So sync all your teams to My Playbook. Let's get to the rest of the C- tier. So after Deontay Foreman, who again, we're waiting on Roschon news, then you have Tajay Spears, Ezekiel Elliott, Chuba Hubbard, and Zach Charbonnet. All these guys kind of working in, but nobody really standing out. So that becomes a very difficult tier. In the D+ tier, then we go to Kenneth Gainwell and Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, Gibbs was inactive last week, Boggs. Should he be active this week? Is he somebody that you want to start, considering that David Montgomery has looked so good in this backfield?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to start him, but he's, like I said, this week is kind of weak. The WEEK is WEAK.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see it happening. He's such a good weapon. I was just going through his stats from last year at Alabama. He was so good. I don't know why they don't get him more involved, but Montgomery looks like a Hall of Fame running back behind this line. So it's, they have so many weapons here that he's not a guy I'm looking to start if I can avoid it.
Where are you at, Welsh, when it comes to Jahmyr Gibbs, too? This is a tough one because you love the talent, but it is now October, so you're wanting to see some progress. It's hard to have progress when we're not on the field. So do you think Gibbs is one of these interesting maybe buy lows as well? Because as the season goes on, there's more opportunity for him. And what do you think about this week? Should he be active? Is he somebody you could start?
I think it's tough on both sides. I'm trying to find what is the path that makes Gibbs. I don't want to belabor this, but what's the path that makes Gibbs this great buy low right now? They spread the ball around. They've got a bunch of
I think it's an Amon-Ra St. Brown bigger injury. That's what I think it is.
Okay, I should have prefaced it. Without an injury, what's the path? Because you've got a bunch of receivers that can play short. They were playing Jameson Williams short. Josh Reynolds can play short. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Dave Montgomery is the clear running back. You do not want less than 20 carries. So what is the path where he can be that RB1 that a lot of people, not me, but a lot of other people were paying for? I don't see it. I don't see it. So I struggle with if he needs to make his game in the passing side, okay. But how? Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, greatest tight end on the planet. You have way too many receiving options. I don't see where Gibbs can get 7-8 targets out of the backfield every single week. I don't see where he can get 12 to 15 carries every single week. You're getting back into this glob. He belongs on a glob to me. I don't think the Bucs aren't a really great team to run against where both running backs can thrive. Maybe you can pass because they gave up the 17 targets to Kamara in week 4 and 15 catches. So maybe Gibbs can get involved there. But I think at best it's a flex RB3 type of thing. And I think he sits in this world with the Jerome Fords and he sits in with Demercados. That's a really weird space to be in. I'm not crazy with him.
Yeah, I think it's the emergence of Sam Laporte is the thing that's really kind of stunted him the most, because I think everyone was excited about him, but nobody thought he was going to be that good that quickly, and he has been. Yeah. So it's that abdomen injury to Amon-Ra that if he's not right or if he should miss any more time, I know he's supposed to play this week. We'll see. We'll see as the injuries unfold.
There's a couple backs, just to point out, lastly, there are a couple backs. It's okay to be like this because everyone's like, this guy's the worst. This guy's the best. There are a couple backs that, like, they just belong on your bench. Rhamondre belongs on your bench. Gibbs probably belongs on your bench. If you have no other options, okay, that's fine. There are guys that you just
dump them.
If you have options. If you have options, it's okay to bench some guys and be like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing right now with these players, because that's why we're having these big questions with Rhamondre, with maybe not Jerome Ford so much, but like Gibbs, Rhamondre and Gibbs specifically. I think those guys are comfortable benches if you have options.
All right, let's go to the D tier here next. Jerick McKinnon of Kansas City. Then you have Antonio Gibson of Washington, Cam Akers in Minnesota. We'll see if Cam Akers gets more work. So far, that's kind of been a non-starter issue. And then Antonio Gibson, Welsh, look, I mean, this is a guy last week had 0 rushing attempts against the Chicago Bears, but he did have 6 targets, caught 4 of them for 64 yards, 8 half PPR points. So in your opinion, is Antonio Gibson somebody in a deeper league with all of these, bye weeks you have going on, all the injuries? Is he somebody to throw a flyer out there as a flex play maybe?
If you are dealing with injuries and a bye week issue, maybe, but in half PPR, he hasn't reached double-digit points. He's the 15th most targeted running back, which is solid, but he's an atrocious runner. It's all done. Like, I'm talking about Gibbs. He is going to have to do a lot of it out of the passing game and a little bit out of the running game. Gibson has to do everything out of the passing game. He's Jerick McKinnon in a worse offense. That's the thing. Jerick McKinnon's with the Chiefs. You're like, oh, this is awesome. Gibson is on an average team with Sam Howell quarterback, which I know is fine, blah, blah, blah. But he's on a worse team. He's Jerick McKinnon on the Commanders. And what would you think about Jerick McKinnon on the Commanders? You probably wouldn't like it that much.
Not so much.
I don't like Antonio Gibson that much.
All right, Jekyll and Howell, as you like to call him, Scott Bogman. Antonio Gibson, is that a piece that is even startable this week in some of these scenarios where people are really hurting at this RB position?
Look, I've got a lot of experience working in the D tier, all right? And Antonio Gibson is not one you want to take home, okay? Look, he is 107 out of 108 in PFF run grade. He gets targets, and that is it. Eric Bieniemy talked him up this offseason, said he's going to be a matchup nightmare, and it just has not worked out. It hasn't happened for him yet. I do like the fact that, like we talked about, he's getting some hacks at it. 15th most running back targets in the league so far. 5th most receiving snaps among running backs. So he's out there. He's on the field. He's trying, but he's just not getting the results yet. I think eventually he'll come around, but I'm not going to be starting him until he does. Even with bye weeks and injuries, this is not a guy I want to play.
All right, let's run through the rest of the D- and F tier. Matt Breida starts us off there with the D- tier, then Kendre Miller, Latavius Murray of the Buffalo Bills, then Joshua Kelly, who, if Eckler is back, should be mostly irrelevant, if not completely, Tank Bigsby, and Dalvin Cook, who is absolutely irrelevant as well. Matt Breida is the one guy here to discuss here, Boggs, real quick. Look, I understand there's people who are waiting on Saquon again. They've been trying to make this Matt Breida thing work. It has been ugly. It has been terrible. Last week, 9 carries for 21 yards. He had 1 target for 3. I know the Buffalo defense is hurting. It's missing a lot of pieces, but to me, Matt Breida is another one of these guys you just can't start. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, Matt Breida this week is the worst. He's the cripple version of Jerome Ford. I mean, Jerome Ford going up a really tough defense. You can have Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, most likely for the Giants here. Even against a bad Bills defense, it doesn't matter. This dude is not a good running back. Eric Gray moved ahead of him on the depth chart last week. I'd rather roll with him. He's bad.
Same thing for you, Welsh. Breida, just because he might get the run doesn't mean he should be starting on your team.
You'd have to Rochambeau me to try to start him. There's no chance.
Let's go. Enough said on that one. Let's play a little game of who would you rather start here. Miles Sanders at Miami or Emari Demercado of the Arizona Cardinals at the Rams. Welsh, who would you rather start this week?
I actually think this one can be kind of tough. I'm playing my narrative again that when you have good players that you don't use a whole bunch of and you're in bigger matchups and you need to rebound, what do? You get the best players the ball in their hands, and that's Miles Sanders. He had 8 total potential touches, 1 target, only 7 carries. He's banged up, which I'm very worried about, but I do think you can pass the ball with him again. He had no less than 3 catches in every single game prior to this. I think they'll be playing from behind. I think Joe Hubbard's going to put a little bit into this, but I told you before, I don't think Demercado is going to get volume, so I'm going to go with Miles Sanders on this one.
All right, well, Sanders is hurt. They've got a bye coming up next week, and they should be behind in this game, though. That's the problem here against Miami,
Yeah, exactly.
you would think. So, Boggs, these guys are back-to-back here in ECR, 26 and 27, respectively. I'm throwing against the wall and seeing what Demercado gives me. What do you think, though? You still Sanders?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still Miles Sanders for me. Look, Demercado, maybe he gets the run here for the Cardinals, and that's fine. I think it's going to be a bigger mix, and I think Demercado's just a guy. So I'm not impressed with him. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I know Miles Sanders is good. So if he's a little more healthy this week, he should be much better than Demercado. So give me Miles.
All right, one more would you rather for the boys here. Deonta Foreman versus Minnesota, or Tajay Spears of Tennessee against Baltimore. Boggs, who would you rather start this week?
Give me Foreman. Spears is fine. He's getting mixed in, and I do like some of the play designs. They had the nice reverse for a touchdown with him. I do think he's a very good running back, but I think even if Roschon plays, Foreman is going to get a decent amount of run, and he can run downhill, especially if the Minnesota defense is tired late. He can be a closer, so I do like Foreman this week.
Welsh?
I'm going to go with Foreman. I mean, I told you if he's the sole guy, I think he can be an RB2. I think even if Roschon is out there, I think Foreman is going to be in pass protection, which is going to give some receiving opportunities, which it's probably going to be the best thing for the Vikings, and we've seen him do before. 3-4 catches, 8 to 10 runs. I'm fine with that. Tajay Spears does look pretty explosive, but it's just hard for me to fall into that bandwagon when Derrick Henry's there. I know they keep doing it in the snap percentages and stuff, but every week I'm like, why are they not doing like 28 carries for Derrick Henry anymore? I'll go with Foreman with this opportunity out there against the Vikings.
To stay up to date with all of the expert consensus rankings, make sure you head over to fantasypros.com/rankings today and all week long. Don't forget to download my playbook as well. Use the tools there to help you stay on top of all the latest news. A lot of moving pieces this week, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And click that little bell till it goes ding for notifications over on Fantasy Pros, and drop a comment below. We love to hear from all of you. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Bogman and Welsh, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.